Hello and welcome to this presentation describing a web-accessible database and travel map tracing Rebecca West's journey through Yugoslavia as described in Black Lamb and Gray Falcon. Rebecca West was one of the 20th century's most brilliant and forceful writers. In the mid-1930s, she made several trips to the Balkans to gather materials for her 1941 opus magnum, Black Lamb and Gray Falcon, A Journey Through Yugoslavia. West's objective was to show the past side by side with the present it created. As a side note, Black Lamb and Gray Falcon is on the Random House Modern Library 100 Best Nonfiction Books of the 20th Century. Beyond being a snapshot in time and place, the book includes detailed historical background reaching back hundreds of years in a region that gave rise to the term balkanization. For the historian, West's book provides insightful observations about the people and places of a lesser-known region of the world just a few short years before the region was devastated by World War II and subsequent violence. However, at over 1,000 pages in 2 volumes, the reader and historian can easily become overwhelmed by the depth and breadth of the material. A straight read-through of the work can make it difficult to follow the many historical and geopolitical threads entangled in the region. The purpose of the project described here was to create a web-accessible database and travel map tracing West's route that can aid in navigating these threads. This presentation provides descriptions of the project materials generation process, the data repository where project materials can be accessed, and the online web map where the places and travel routes cited in the book can be viewed. The primary work of this project consisted of identifying places that West visited on her 1937 trip to what was then Yugoslavia and the routes that she traveled between places. The primary source used was her book, Black Lamb and Gray Falcon. In addition to West's book, her travel diary covering her 1937 trip was also used as a source for identifying places and routes. Access to a scanned copy of West's diary was provided by the Beinecke Library at Yale University. This project was executed in 4 steps, which will now be described. First, the sources were scanned for the places mentioned, and the results were put into a places table. The type entries in the table indicate layovers where West stayed for at least 1 night and waypoints that West visited, passed through, or viewed from her travel route. The web link entries link to a description of each place, typically Wikipedia pages. The GeoNames ID entries link to GeoNames Gazetteer entries for the places. The GeoNames Gazetteer is a free geographical database containing over 11 million unique features that can be added to and edited by users. There are 26 layovers and 96 waypoints in this table. After creating the places table, the sources were scanned again to create a table of routes between places. This second scan also served as a check to make sure that all places were captured in the places table. The first column in the table provides a unique route ID for each route segment, numbered sequentially starting from the first route mentioned in the book. The second and third columns show the starting and ending point of each segment. The fourth column shows the mode of travel as either auto, boat, or train. For example, the 7th route mentioned in the book was an auto ride from Dubrovnik to Kotor. There are 22 auto routes, 4 boat routes, and 11 train routes in the table. These tables were used to create a map of places and routes. Here we see a section of the map as it was produced using QGIS. QGIS is a free and open source cross-platform desktop geographic information system that supports viewing, editing, and analysis of geospatial data. The map has layers for layovers and waypoints, and layers for auto, boat, and train routes. Note that the labels on places and routes correspond to place ID and route ID values included in the place and route tables. The layers are stored as GeoPackage format files. GeoPackage is an open, standards-based, platform-independent format for transferring geospatial information. GeoPackage files can be imported into GIS software such as QGIS and ArcGIS. Place and route location was aided by an OpenStreetMap layer. OpenStreetMap is a collaborative project to create a free editable geographic database of the world. In addition to the GeoPackage layers for places and routes, QGIS was used to create a KMZ format file that can be displayed in GIS software such as Google Earth. Google Earth is a free computer and mobile device app that renders a 3D representation of Earth based primarily on satellite imagery. When displayed using Google Earth, clicking on the map's place and route markers opens a box with information derived from the associated places or routes table. Note that labels and colors for places and routes on the KMZ map are carried over from the QGIS map. Finally, all of the project materials just described were made accessible to the public using two vehicles. The Harvard Dataverse web-based data repository was used to store places and routes tables, the places and routes GeoPackage files, and the KMZ file map. Harvard World Map was used to provide an online version of the places and routes map generated in QGIS. Here is the Harvard Dataverse webpage for this project's materials. Here is the web link to the project's Dataverse. If you scroll down past the project description, you come to the section of this Dataverse where you can download the project materials described earlier. For example, clicking on the Travel Map GeoPackage file link takes you to a page where you can download the GeoPackage files for travel routes and places. To download the auto routes, select the Auto GeoPackage file and click Download. Here is the travel map available through the project's Harvard World Map. Here is the web link to the map. At this map scale, you can see layover places and auto, boat, and train routes. Zooming in on the map adds waypoints to the map. Zooming in farther reveals place ID and route ID labels. Note that the labels and colors for places and routes on the Harvard World Map are carried over from the QGIS map. Clicking on a layover or waypoint on the map opens an information box for the place. The link and GeoID links in the information box are functional and correspond to entries in the previously mentioned places table. Clicking on a travel route opens an information box for the route, which corresponds to entries in the routes table. Note also that Harvard World Map has a search bar that helps you find a particular place on the map. Clicking the Information button on the Harvard World Map page reveals a description of the map. In the course of preparing project materials, two types of place and route ambiguities were encountered. First, Occasionally, sections of West's book do not correlate with equivalent sections of her diary for the trip described in the book. Second, in some cases, modern maps show multiple potential routes between places mentioned in the book. Regarding the first case, an example occurs in the book's epilogue, where West traces her travels from Budva to Zagreb according to one route, but her diary traces her travels according to a different route. For such cases, West's diary took precedent over her book when preparing project materials. Regarding cases where West's book and diary do not provide enough information to select a particular route between places, period maps were used to select a likely route. Here are the 3 period maps used, all of which are available to the public through the David Rumsey Historical Map Collection. The links shown here open the maps in the collection, which can be viewed and also exported. Here we see a section of the 1944 Serbian map showing a likely train route from Raška to Kragujevac through Kraljevo, and the equivalent route on the project's Harvard World Map. In conclusion, the goal of this project was to provide a useful tool and materials to students of Rebecca West's work and a general audience of those interested in travel writing in modern history and literature. To this end, all project materials are covered by a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike license. Materials are free to share in any medium or format and may be remixed, transformed, and built upon under the terms of the Creative Commons license cited here. Please see this link for a more detailed description of the licensing terms. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully this material will aid your understanding and appreciation of Rebecca West's Black Lamb and Gray Falcon and the history of the region described. We conclude with this dedication from West's book.